Everybody, welcome back to Amazon suspension trends. This is Chris McCabe of e-commerce Chris, and this is a part 2 of a video that I recorded previously, which covers reviews abuse suspensions. What I mean by that is sellers looking to artificially inflate their positive review count, their sales rank. It's an extremely hot topic right now. I'm sure many people listening to this have either received warnings, policy warnings for this, or they even know somebody who got hit with a suspension over it. And I know this because we've been fielding calls and emails about it for, I would say, going on 4 or 5 weeks. And I'm having the same conversations over and over with sellers who are either going back and digging up old trends with product inserts or sales funnels or messaging funnels that they only bother to do if it boosts their positive reviews, of course, or they're trying new techniques, new tactics that are just not compliant with Amazon's terms of service. And it's resulting in more warnings that they add to their previous warnings that they haven't been suspended yet. They're worried about being suspended, or in many cases, I don't hear from people until they're already suspended and their options are dwindling because they've waited too long, didn't make changes when they had the opportunities to, when they were active, but they're appealing it now. And I understand there's a split between appeals that your account manager, if you're in the SaaS Core program, your account manager tells you to do an appeal, they'll take it, they'll run with it, or an appeal that you send in through Seller Central just to keep your account active. A couple of years ago, Amazon rolled out this account health assurance program with mixed results. The gist of it was you are given an opportunity to save yourself from a suspension by appealing now up front. Usually they give you 72 hours. Sometimes people aren't getting the 72-hour message and they're told to submit something either as soon as possible or within the next 24 hours. But the bottom line is the appeal has to meet certain criteria in order to be accepted and to prevent an account suspension. Everyone else has either already had an opportunity to save themselves and didn't do it, or they missed the messages, or they didn't understand what kind of appeal was expected. They called account health. They got mixed and matched advice, which maybe didn't make a lot of sense, and they threw something together. Or they didn't even call account health and they just threw something together based on their understanding of what an appeal is. Either way, they failed that review. They got suspended. And we do hear from a lot of people, the first time is when they're already suspended, unfortunately. So you're in one of those two buckets. For the moment, I want to focus on the active sellers who still have a chance to prevent a suspension. They still have a chance to prevent Amazon from doing bin checks, going in, pulling units out of FBA, looking to see what the inserts are like. Obviously, it depends on what the start of that investigation was. Maybe you were reported by somebody. Somebody took a screenshot of your insert. Probably it was pretty obvious that the insert was violating policies. Maybe you didn't think they did. Everyone else thinks they did. And that's what began the cycle of policy enforcement, whether it was a warning that was written, whether it was a call from account health saying, hey, by the way, we caught you doing something, or, you get the 72-hour message saying your whole account will go down if you're pursuing positive reviews in the wrong fashion. Now, in the last video, I covered all the mistakes and misinterpretation sellers are making around whether you can give product away, and that's okay as long as you don't ask for a review. I'm not going to cover that again this time. I'm going to assume that you understand now that you can't give product away. It's going to get you flagged like this, and you're going to either be suspended or they'll threaten to suspend your account. How do you appeal these? Well, there's two ways of appealing. You're either disputing the validity of the warning, the validity of the incoming account suspension, and you prove that with evidence, and you put together a properly formulated dispute, or they tell you to admit it, acknowledge it, and then you hope for the best. If you're clicking that button in Seller Central saying, yes, you're right, we violated these policies, think long and hard before you admit that you're violating those policies. Think long and hard about the evidence they have against you before you click that button, because an acknowledgement could pipe you straight into an account suspension. Now, if you've been doing all sorts of crazy things, you've been violating the policies, whether it was deliberate or not, whether it was malicious or not, whether it was intentional or not, kind of doesn't matter. There are some people at Account Health that will tell you it matters. I disagree with those people. There are account managers that you're paying $5,000 a month to have in SAS Core that will maybe tell you intention matters. I will disagree with those people. What matters is the evidence of what you were doing or what you weren't doing. That's what matters. Those people who say that intention matters or motives matter, they've never worked on these teams. I can almost guarantee you they've never worked on seller performance or policy enforcement teams. And I can almost guarantee you they've never worked on PRA teams, product review abuse teams. They're not investigators. Also, they're kind of trained to tell you something that will ostensibly be helpful, even if it's not helpful, which I talked about in the last video. So take what they tell you with a grain of salt. Be very careful before you accept responsibility. I can't tell you how many brands have contacted us who should have done disputes when they were flagged for this. And instead, they wrote a plan of action, or they acknowledged and accepted responsibility because they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what else to do. Somebody in account health just told them to do it without any reasoning behind it, and they believed them. Don't be gullible. Think like an analyst. Think about what's going to hurt your odds or help your odds. Don't just take what you're told at face value. Don't take what I tell you at face value. Fact check and double check what I'm telling you. Fact check and double check what account managers tell you, or an Amazon executive you met at Amazon Accelerate, or anyone told you. A service provider, an agency owner. I can't tell you how many owners of agencies have been giving brands incorrect advice about how to appeal these. Sometimes the brand owners are letting the agencies simply appeal it for them, even if they have no background in appeals, even if the content they give you might increase, not decrease your odds of having that warning turn into a full account suspension. Can't tell you how damaging that is to start with a plan of action when you should have done a dispute. If there's nothing else you take away from this video, take that away from this. Do not just sit down and wind the clocks back to 2 or 3 years ago when a plan of action was part of every appeal and ignorantly submit a plan of action that only hurts your odds of resolving these problems. A lot of people are doing that. I don't know if they're just using AI or ChatGPT to scrape internet info from 2 years ago about Amazon appeals. If you're doing that, I'm assuming you know you're doing that, and you know that's a high-risk activity, and that you know it's not terribly smart to do that, but you're just doing it anyway, I guess out of desperation or panic. Panic appeals probably have a 0% chance of success. So if you're the type of brand owner or business owner who succumbs to that panic, I would say let somebody else do it and step aside, because you're not fit to do this type of thing, and you're just risking your business, your employees, all of the money and all of the revenue behind your business is at risk because you're already starting on the wrong foot, or you're listening to the wrong people, or you're listening to the wrong voices inside your head, which are telling you something that is against all logic and all proper judgment in these cases. You don't get that many chances at reviews, abuse, suspensions anymore. Almost every brand I talk to seems to know that. The newer ones perhaps are too new to understand these concepts. 75 to 90% of the rest of the brand owning population understands these concepts, but they're listening to the wrong voices or the wrong ideas inside their own head. Don't cave into that temptation. Follow what will make sense strategically. Do a dispute the right way. Don't just say, I'm disputing this. This is wrong. We've been reported by competitors, or Amazon has no basis for making this accusation. Clear us of this offense. Have a nice day. That's not a dispute. I've seen some dispute that brands have sent in that look like they were etched on the back of a napkin in a bar somewhere. Completely unprofessional, completely devoid of facts or specifics or dates or evidence or anything that those teams are looking for. Those teams are looking for very specific stuff, right? I'm not saying they're really good at reading appeals. They're not. I'm not saying they are going to read every appeal. We all know this. They won't. That's a given. I'm saying you want to increase your odds of having the first or second appeal be accepted, and to avoid the tendency that a lot of brands have on Amazon right now of just taking a random crack at it and winging it. I don't know why this is still a thing. Spending 2 or 3 wasted appeals, and then you start spinning. And while you're spinning out, then you start panicking and reaching out to help from people like me, who probably could have kept you from spinning and kept you from burning and wasting those appeals if you had contacted us before you submitted anything. So again, it's not that I'm oblivious to the hastiness and the panic that some people succumb to when they're appealing this stuff. Of course, I understand it. It doesn't mean it's going to help your situation. It means it's almost guaranteed to hurt your situation. So the temptation to write a plan of action because somebody in some seller group told you to do it, or your agency owner told you to do it erroneously because they don't understand the process, or you heard about it at a conference or whatever it might be, stop yourself in your tracks. Understand that if you send a plan of action, you're admitting the offense. You're handing them lots of details of wrongdoing and of mistakes you made. And you understand that if you're sending that plan of action, you're kind of pushing yourself into the area of, well, I'm just throwing myself on the mercy of the court, but I have no other play that I'm going to make here. You understand that you're accepting fault. And a lot of Amazonians will say, oh, they accepted fault. Great, deny the appeal. Because they're on a dispute-only path. And maybe I should have made that abundantly clear when I let off this video. And we can throw it in the notes on YouTube where we post this. But the bottom line is, understand before you submit anything exactly what a dispute is, exactly when you send a plan of action. I would have to spend an hour on this video, which I will not, explaining every situation you'd need a dispute for, every situation you'd need a plan of action for. Plans of action are admitting fault, but this is not the situation that account health reps may tell you, where all you do is slap together some root causes of why you misunderstood the policy, why you continue to abuse these policies, even after a warning. Laundry list of the offenses you did, all the buyers you tried to induce to get 5-star reviews or positive reviews, all the products you gave away. You're giving them all the ammunition that they need to fire back at you when they want to take your account down. You're handing it to them on a platter. If that's your only choice, if people at Amazon, whether it's your account manager, account health reps, policy teams, direct responses to emails that were escalations to management, whoever it is, if they're all saying the same thing in unison, your only way out of this is to give us a plan of action. And they specifically put that in writing, but you have to submit a plan of action because there's no other way out. They've caught you doing all these crazy things. They're planning on keeping you suspended. They need the plan of action in order to open a ray or a glimmer of hope to let you come back on. Then yes, then you know you have to do a plan of action because you have no dispute path. Sometimes they will tell you, we saw your dispute. We're not going to accept disputes from you. We will accept them from other people. And it is true that for your case, typically dispute is the only way out and POAs will be automatically rejected. But in your particular case, you have no choice. Yes, you have to do a POA. If you hear that language, if you hear those dire words, talk to me, run it by me, and we can have a conversation about not just your odds. Everyone wants to speak first about what are our chances of getting this done. Forget about that for the moment. You already know your odds are somewhat poor. You need to focus on what you can put in the plan of action at that point and how you can erase their memories of whatever you submitted up to that point, because typically 60, 70% of the time I'm talking to people who have sent in 3, 4, 5 garbage level appeals before that. So those are the people that are POA only, very few of you. Everyone else should be looking at avenues of approach where you're disputing it. Something I spoke about in the last video, which you can go back and watch now after this one's over, is blaming the employee, blaming the service provider. A lot of that is Amazon trying to poke you into giving them details on your methodology. They want to figure out exactly what you did, and then they'll decide whether or not they want you back. So lots of sellers are oversharing all of these gritty details about what their employees were doing that they shouldn't have been doing. They hired third-party services. I think I saw an appeal the other day where people went into this whole tangent about all the influencers they were giving product to and then encouraging them to buy from them on Amazon. So it would be a verified review. If you're going to blame influencers, you're the one who hired them. So essentially you're blaming yourself for the influencers who you're now blaming. You hired your employees. If you're throwing them under the bus, doesn't work nearly as well as an appeal as it did a year ago or a year and a half ago. I still see people doing it. I did hear from a few people over the last month maybe 3, 4, 5% of the people I've heard from said, well, we blamed a service provider, we blamed an employee. Some people told me they blamed Amazon employees, like somebody in account health who gave them the wrong advice. Big shock there. Or somebody on compliance teams or their account manager gave them the wrong advice. I suppose maybe 1 or 2 out of 100 of those might get some traction, but those are low percentage plays, right? Blaming somebody else for something you did typically doesn't constitute a proper dispute that they'll actually accept. No, disputes are evidence that Amazon thinks he did something wrong and they think they flagged you properly, but you're here to disprove that and to show them that you weren't violating policies. That's what most disputes need to look and sound like. Now, if you do that and you properly dispute it, not using the format of a plan of action, once again, I've seen disputes right in POA format. I don't know where these ideas come from. I don't know why people are doing it. Properly formatted disputes should be acceptable, or they should have a good chance of being accepted. The exception always being somebody at Amazon didn't read the appeal at all. Well, of course, even if it's a perfect dispute, if nobody opens it, nobody reads it, that'll hurt the odds of success. That's a given. That goes without saying. For everyone else, there are proper ways of disputing it. Are there 3, 4, 5 different ways of disputing? Yes, of course. They have to uniquely fit your situation. You have to customize it. If you're starting from the approach of, I'm just going to pump some random basic review, abuse, suspension inputs into AI and see what spits out. First of all, I think Amazon can tell you're using AI. They're not going to bother with it. They're going to reject it. Number one. Number two, you're probably taking a viable dispute path and soiling it with bad content. And you could have resolved it, but you're actively choosing to put as little work into it as possible, which is sabotaging the effort. Or if it's not AI that you come up with, something out of ChatGPT or another AI tool, a lot of people seem to be grabbing these templates, like fill in the blank style templates that are, perhaps they are dispute templates, but they're just generic canned content. And Amazon can usually tell that as well because they've seen all the templates a million times. All the companies, all the template mills out there that are just relentlessly pumping these through Seller Central. First of all, if you're embracing that approach from the outset, you probably know it's got a low likelihood of success. Maybe you're okay with that. If you don't know that, then you need to get yourself schooled up on it quick, because the templates are not a serious appeal attempt and they're not going to be taken seriously by Amazon. So there are different types of disputes. You need me to take a look at your particular situation, what Amazon may have misunderstood, which they have actually misunderstood a lot of the practices that people are employing. They make a lot of rash judgments, as we all know. They make a lot of mistakes in these assessments, as we all know. So keep that in mind. You do have viable dispute appeals paths. Not if you botch it, not if you hire somebody who's dabbling in this as a sideline or somebody who doesn't do this every day. You're better off doing it yourself versus getting some friend of yours to do it for you or some agency to take over and do it for you. They don't know this stuff. They don't work on it. There's a lot of nuance and complexity here. I mean, honestly, if it's an agency owner and their clients are all getting suspended for reviews abuse, that kind of tells you something. It means they're mismanaging your accounts and they're not employing proper marketing practices. So last thought on this, if you are submitting a plan of action, you think you fit the criteria for a plan of action, or you were told specifically, deliberately by somebody on Amazon's leadership or escalation teams that you need a plan of action, or forget it, don't bother. Talk to me about that. Let me look at it before you send it in. Otherwise, you're just hurting yourself, and you're probably hurting your odds, which are already lower because of how you've handled everything up until that point. Product review abuse suspensions, I understand those, they're cyclical. They come and go. I understand they're trendy, and they're trendy right now. But with each permutation that we see come through, they get harsher and harsher with people for a reason. Amazon's sick of this topic. They're sick of sellers misinterpreting their policies in ways that are favorable to that brand or seller's marketing strategy. They're tired of third-party services or consultants or whoever they are, gurus, putting videos up that are non-compliant, that are pushing loads and loads of sellers to break the rules and to fudge the rules and to play in the quote-unquote gray area that no longer exists. We're living in a black and white world when it comes to product review abuse, PRA team enforcement, and review solicitation. So questions on this video or the one prior, let me know. Thanks again for listening, and be careful.